Okay, next we're going to talk about congressional leadership and committees. So, congressional leadership, the House and the Senate, they operate independently. Remember, we said that there is a bicameral legislature, there's two houses, and they are separate. There are separate chambers, separate votes, separate offices, and separate operations. Therefore, they have their own leadership structure too, which we'll talk about in this video, or in this notes. There are many similarities, but a few important differences as well. This is just an example. This is the chart of the House leadership. Again, this is this big bubble we know as Congress. But under the House of Representatives, the leader is the Speaker of the House. You're not filling this out, by the way. It goes into majority leader, majority whip, minority whip, and then committee chairpersons. The Speaker of the House, we have Nancy Pelosi. She is second in line for the presidency. So you have the president, the vice president, and then the Speaker of the House. This is actually an older picture of her because she has definitely aged since then. The Speaker of the House is considered to be the most powerful person in Congress. The way that that person is chosen, it says both parties can make nominations. The Speaker typically always comes from the majority party. The current majority party, in the House of Representatives is the Democrats, and that came from the midterm elections that were held recently in, oh gosh, what was that, 2018. So they often use their position to favor their party's agenda. The responsibilities of the Speaker, they enforce the rules and keep order. They refer bills to committees. They put motions to a vote. They assign members to select committees and most of the rules committees. The Speaker is also in charge of signing all the bills that are passed in the House, and they are able to debate and vote, but this does not usually happen. They do this a lot less than other members. Floor leaders. Floor leaders are leaders elected by their party members to serve as the chief spokesperson for that party. The positions of majority and minority leaders can switch every 2 years as the majority party in Congress may change, and that is because of the elections. The majority leader has both more influence than the minority leader. These positions exist in both the House and the Senate. The leader of the floor. Floor leaders try to push their party's agenda. They typically are the ones who lead the strategy of the party, and they're looked at as the mouthpiece. So if you're ever watching some sort of news channel or news show, and you see somebody who is a representative of the House or the Senate, typically that's going to be the floor leader, if it's the Democrat or Republican floor leader. So, party whips. Party whips assist the floor leaders for each party. They serve as a link between the floor leaders and the rest of the members. They can check in with members and report how many votes can be counted on, because keep in mind, members of Congress do not actually have to physically be there to vote. They also ensure members show up for votes. So these are your current House leaders. Your majority leader is Steny Hoyer, a Democrat from Maryland. You have your majority whip, which is Jim Clyburn, Democrat from South Carolina. And then the minority, I know this sounds strange. A lot of people are like, what is majority versus minority? Again, Democrats are the ones who have control, therefore they make up the majority, and this is why we call them majority. The Republicans do not make up the majority. There are less of them than the Democrats, so they are the minority according to numbers. So, Kevin McCarthy is the Republican from California, and Steve Scalise is a Republican from Louisiana. Senate leadership. This is all the same, but we have the president pro tempore, and we'll get into this. Now, keep in mind, like I said, the leader, technically the official leader of the Senate is Mike Pence, who is the vice president. So the vice president is the leader of the Senate. Now, it doesn't mean he's a member of the Senate, and he's not necessarily from the majority party. The way that this person is elected is through the presidential election. The Senate, or the president of the Senate, may only vote to break a tie, and they do not actually take part in floor debates. He is also rarely ever in the Senate, which is why we have the president pro tempore. So, the president pro tempore presides over the Senate in the vice president's absence, which is almost always. They are the leading member of the majority party. Other senators from the majority party may preside in his or her absence. And the president pro tempore is third in line to the presidential succession. So, president, then you have vice president, speaker of the House, and president pro tempore. The current president pro tempore is Chuck Grassley. And Senate floor leaders and whips. The Senate has the same positions of floor leaders and whips with similar roles. The majority leader is considered the most important and powerful position in the Senate. These are the current Senate leaders. Now keep in mind, the majority party in the Senate are the Republicans. They hold the majority. There are more Republicans in the Senate than there are Democrats. So therefore, they are the majority, and the minority, according to numbers, is Democrat. So the leader, the majority leader for the Senate is Mitch McConnell. He's a Republican from Kentucky. You've also got the majority whip, which is John Thune, a Republican from South Dakota. Excuse me, I'm running out of breath here. The minority leader for the Senate is Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York. And then finally, minority whip is Dick Durbin, who is a Democrat from Illinois. The committee chairpersons. These are members who head the standing or permanent committees in each chamber. All chairs are chosen from the majority party and typically are based on what we know as seniority rule, which means that the person who has been, who has the longest record of service are typically people who are going to be selected as chair. Pros and cons. Now, for your class, you don't necessarily have to know this as much. This is more or less kind of like an honors government or an AP government kind of thing. But pros and cons of seniority rule. Pros, they ensure committee chairs have experience. It eliminates intra-party fighting, easy to use. The cons, they disregard the abilities, ideas, and contributions of newer members, limits fresh leadership. So, again, what this means is that, whoever is the committee chairperson, they are the ones who will hear certain things as far as it comes to a bill being passed into law. And if they don't like new ideas or contributions, then that could limit leadership. But again, you also want somebody who has been there for a long time. That way they can eliminate this little bickering that happens with new members of Congress or new members of the Senate. Committee chair roles. Leading each committee is the major job. They also determine meeting types. They decide which bills to focus on, and they decide whether or not to hold hearings. Like many other leadership positions, committee chairs are chosen during the party caucus before each term begins. This is a full-on overview of the chart. Congressional committees. Why do we have committees in Congress? Well, there's so many people. Congress in total has 535 members, and so the reason we have committees is because it mainly divides the workload. It also allows members to specialize in particular areas. Most of the work of Congress happens in committees because they are in charge of discussing bills, investigating bills, and they also do the work of lawmaking. That is their main job. There are several types, and each serves a different function. So we're going to look at these now. The first type of committee is known as a standing or permanent committee. These are permanent panels that play a primary role in lawmaking. Their role is to filter through bills and determine which ones to progress to the whole body. There are 20 standing committees in the House and 16 in the Senate. Typically, members of the Senate serve on multiple committees, and then the members of the House, maybe like one or two. Okay, these are the House committees. I'm not going to read all of them, but if you notice, there's an Ethics Committee, Budget Committee, you've got Judiciary, you've got Homeland Security, small business, veterans affairs, etc. There's less in the Senate. They've kind of grouped them a little bit together a little bit more because remember there's less members. So you have finance, judiciary, veterans affairs, appropriations, armed services, etc. Each standing committee considers bills that falls within their assigned area. Committee assignments. So like this is what I was discussing. House representatives are usually assigned to 1 or 2, and senators are usually assigned to 3 to 4 depending on their type and leadership role. When you become a new member of the House or the Senate, you typically will kind of have a wish list of which committee you would like to serve on. It could be something you're kind of passionate about. So they also may want to serve on prominent committees that hold a lot of influence, or a committee that provides special services to their district or state. And that's important because that helps funnel money and resources to your state. And you hope to do, good by your state. That's the reason you want to be elected. You want to do as much as you can for your voters, the people who voted you into office. Subcommittees. These are smaller divisions of a standing subcommittee that handles a specific part of the committee's workload. For example, the Senate Judiciary Committee has 6 subcommittees that each specialize in a particular area. Many hold hearings and make recommendations to the full standing committee. And this is a picture of an actual standing committee. And this is a witness that they have pulled. That way they can ask questions and look into, researching for the passage of a bill. Second committee or type of committees we have are select committees, and they are not permanent. They're usually temporary or short term. So these are set up for a specific purpose, often to investigate a particular matter. They may hold hearings, issue reports, etc. For example, you had the Senate Select Committee on Presidential Campaign Activities, aka the Senate Watergate Committee. Joint committees is the last type of committee we have. They include both the House and the Senate. They may be temporary or permanent, and their purpose may be to investigate or simply perform routine functions. For example, the Joint Committee on Printing. There were 4. Conference committees. Conference committees are temporary joint committees that are created to iron out the differences in a bill. So remember we said that if a bill is passed in the House and Senate, but let's say they add some notes to it or add some different amendments to the bill, they have to make sure that the bill is the exact same before it can go to the president's desk. So in the House and the Senate, they pass different versions. Like I was saying, they have to compromise before it gets to the president's desk. So that is the end of this section.